Hello, welcome to today's collective general reading. As always, remember to use your own discernment, join with intention, and allow the message to be received with an open heart. A quantum reminder, we are speaking through symbol and story here, so please do not rely on tarot readings as factual evidence. You are always encouraged to do your own research, especially when engaging with strangers on the internet. Hello, this is a continuation from yesterday's video, but unlike usual, another day has passed for me as well. I've left this sitting out at the desk. When I finished recording yesterday, I lay down on the couch to edit a few pieces and I just fell asleep. You know, when your energy is just sucked from you, you know, one of those evening naps. Sure, there's a few reasons behind it, but I think a lot of it has to do with discernment. And there's a message that has been wanting to be communicated through me for, I want to say like a month now, and it just feels so big. It's about AI. And so I don't know if this will be me unpacking the reading around it. I'm not sure of what the connections will be with what the reading was yesterday. I can't even really remember that, although the cards are still here. But we're talking about discernment and AI and new earth and new human. Now, I know that there is a lot of conversations about what AI is and what it is not, and this is going into conversations in fields of sustainability and climate change and creative control and ownership and theft and copyright and what it means to be a conscious being, what consciousness is. And then we get into all of the videos online and articles and people speaking and deep fakes and all of this sense of I don't know what is real. Now, what I have been getting is partially what I, like T the human, has been viewing and observing, and also partially things that I don't know how to explain it aside from like I just know. And it's been my whole life on different things, and with this switch into AI, part of that is coming in, but also me as the human is very wary of saying I know what this will be, because I'm not saying I know what it will be, but claircognizance, you know, that's one way to describe it. For me, it all sits within claircognizance and telepathy for the most part, is just knowing and connecting without speaking or direction. And that's been my whole life, so I don't know any other words to use for it. So forgive me in advance, and here we go. So I'm just gonna cross my legs here because this is more casual. When it comes to AI, I know one of the constant concerns is I don't know what's real. I can't tell reality from simulation, you could say. And this sense of losing control over the narrative, not even being able to tell our own stories because bits and pieces of the stories have been told for us. I'm now gonna kind of pivot and speak about the spiritual community, people who have lived their whole lives or since their awakening or whatever the case may be, a large majority of their existence in this body on this planet, in connection with spirit, and I'm speaking in a Western context because that's the only experience I can speak from, although I do imagine that it would be different in other regions on Earth, where spirituality and normal everyday life is more of a oneness, as opposed to how it has been ripped apart and ricocheted out through the West. We already have the experience of having to decipher what is real and what has been placed upon us, from trying to decipher what it is that we are gaining through psychic knowledge and knowings and tellings, what it is that the media and institutions and these larger organizations and conglomerates what the dominant discourse of Western society has been telling us is real, is everything, versus what it is that we know. But what it is that we know and we sense and we feel and we believe and we breathe value into has not always been reflected through the world around us, right? An example being, you may feel a divine connection with Mother Earth. You may feel connected with the soil, the leaves, the branches, the grass, the sky, with all of these elements of Earth, which are not separate. All is one, ne? All is one. And you may have grown up where people say that's hippie stuff, that's ridiculous, that doesn't make any sense. People from other cultures, dominant cultures, Western cultures, may be telling you that what you know culturally and spiritually is wrong and is silly and is dumb. And you have had to live your entire life. And here's, like different experiences. So take what resonates and leave what does not. You have had to be so defiant against what it is everything is pushing at you so you can continue striving forward. You have this defiance, and I don't mean that you're naturally rejecting or issues with authority or once someone tells you to do something, that means you definitely will not do it. Although those qualities, many of which I share, may definitely play a role inside of this. But all to say, you have been developing a strength to stand with what you know and believe, even in opposition to what is said to be true. These are skills that are able to transfer over into this shift through AI, because you are already used to learning how to discern what is true for you and what the world is saying. You are able to tell a difference. What a lot of people are experiencing now for the first time with AI is, I see something and I can no longer say for sure because I know truth. We are very used to being able to see and not having a truth come in to confirm that, or not being able to see and having faith regardless. This is something that we have skills with that I believe are transferable, and part of our responsibility in this new earth. I do believe that new earth is coming alongside AI, and I don't think that it's happenstance. I don't think that it's a coincidence. I think like anything, enough can, I don't want to say medicine because that's a very valuable term in a lot of ways, but to say medicine in opposition of poison. A little bit can be medicine, a lot can be too much, so much can be poisonous. And I think of how with AI, it's the direct connection to the resources that it is using from Earth, right? They say every time you do a Google search, and it has that AI automated response, that's 1 bottle of water. Do your own research, look into this. Please don't quote these statistics from me, but that's the general sense that I have gathered. So for me, I do not use AI for fun, for mischief, for wonderance. If it's something that I can Google or look up on my own, I do. If it's something that I can do my own research on or watch a few YouTube videos to kind of get a sense of something, sure, I will. I'm also not going to AI for facts. I understand that AI is in this almost human stage where just because it says something similar to humans doesn't mean it's true. And so we are having to use our discernment every time we engage with AI, because AI does not mean factual. And I think that's a big issue that we're having on these like larger social media platforms. And like, I'm not even getting into how the government is using things like Copilot from Microsoft. And like, I've known people who work in government in healthcare, and it's something is sifted through AI, and that's that. There's not really a second look. I had to grab my pearls. It was so upsetting. It was so heart-wrenching to see. And I was working in post-secondary in not as an educator, more on the back end, in equity, diversity, and inclusion within post-secondary, and more, but I won't say more because that'll be too direct. And I sat on a group that would review institutional policies, new ones being created, and also ones that were coming through for updates. And we were the ones who had the final say before it went to the board of directors, who then voted on this being yay or nay. And I remember suddenly AI was everywhere. And it was this flood of, we need to figure out what our AI policy is. And I was like, isn't the AI policy just don't use AI? And then there was the big contention between, there's things like Grammarly and spell check that are AI. And then there's things like Chat GPT and what's the other one? Claude. That is, I think they call it like generative AI. One just fixes little whatevers. One is a conversation, is a dialogue, something that can write your paper for you. And professors and instructors were having to be like, I can tell that this is written by AI, but I don't yet have access to the tools that can confirm that for me. So I can't just challenge students and say that what you're doing is incorrect. And also, we don't have a policy we can rely on that with. And at the time, I started doing research into what was happening with AI in other organizations and other educational institutions across the country. I'm in Canada. And then I was part of a national group of people that work within post-secondary. And I remember going to those meetings, and we were all suddenly faced with this brick wall of AI. Sorry, that was loud. And it was suddenly everything. And we no longer had a choice to say AI has no place in education. And I remember the moment that shifted, and I said, oh, we can't choose. They are not allowing us to choose anymore. And I recently watched the 3rd season of The Comeback. Highly recommend. It's so good. Lisa Kudrow, you are a genius. And it's to do with Valerie Cherish, her character, that is offered a headlining multicam sitcom that is totally written by AI. And that's the whole premise of the season. No spoilers. And there's these conversations throughout and it's also in Hacks, which the final season it's a really good year for television. I will say it's a really good year for women in media. Awesome. Highly recommend Hacks. So freaking good. You can get them both on Crave. Anyway, media plug. And the conversation that keeps returning is AI is already here. We no longer have a choice. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And I'm not saying AI is here, suck it up. I am saying it's here. It's here. And it was deep in the government 2 years ago. So I don't know what's been going on. I left government and post-secondary not even halfway through 2025. So I don't know what's been going on in these systems for the last year. I'm certain it's been a lot. And so we're now about 2 years out from a lot of institutions, organizations, governments, healthcare systems, Western systems that are being written by AI. And they say that they check it and that they do more work. A lot of times they don't. This is my opinion saying this. Don't take me to court on this. I've watched a lot of people put it into AI and carry on, And that hurts. It hurts to see humans see, a tool. Therefore, I don't need to do anything anymore. No. And I think that's part of the bigger issue with AI is it's the idea that AI replaces human. It does not. It does not. It is possible to go alongside, to have a collaboration, to have a connective cord there. And if you are very anti-AI, I'm not here to challenge you on that. You're welcome to share your opinion as I am welcome to share mine. As with anything, no, I don't agree with the slaughter of renewable resources on Earth. I don't. And I look at what my own, what do we call it, carbon footprint is. I look at, in my entire life, I've placed less than 10 orders on Amazon. I've never ordered from Fashion Nova or any of those fast fashions. What's the other one that I want to say? I can't even think of it now, but there's something that's kind of like Amazon or AliExpress, and it's like all this cheap stuff, and everyone's just like, Temu. Never ordered from Temu. I drove for maybe 3 years. I've been reliant on public transit for 15. I've throughout my life been keeping track of the resources that I am engaging with. I'm not saying that it's a constant calculator, but it's all relative. You know what I mean? And so my AI use, I don't use it as, I'm actually it's not for me to talk about how I use AI. I took a course for small businesses to learn how to engage with AI. So I've been doing some education on ways that I can use this tool in a way that is sustainable to me, and just moving my leg. And what I am doing, and that's a choice that I make. And that's the piece on discernment. It is all for you to make this choice. And so people in the spirit, this is kind of all over the place, but I need to get this out, people. I need to get it out. It's been sitting in my veins and it's been holding me back, and I really just need to put this out there. I thought it was gonna be like a video on my other channel through anyway, whatever. So when it comes to AI, okay, spiritual people, we are used to saying, use your discernment, right? You need to be the one to decide what is and is not for you. It's of no one else's responsibility to tell you, to force you, to allow you to conform to what it is that they say, they believe, they trust, they value, they know. You need to make the choice for what you know, what matters to you. This same ability, this skill, something you can build and strengthen and increase by discerning messages that are coming through from spirit, from other readers, from the universe around you, and keeping that balance of not going too far on the other side of the boat that you just walk into the ocean. You need to keep that balance within what reality is for you, right? And I know that this then goes into mental health and psychosis and different things that we now categorize as disorders through things like the DSM-5, etc. I'll also look at, I don't know which model of the DSM it was, but it was an earlier version, and homosexuality was said to be a mental illness. You know what I mean? So it's like, my opinion is, just because it's in a book that we call DSM that we give a lot of importance to, doesn't mean it's the only way, I'll say. Anyway, so whoever this message is for, I think it's the kind of thing where it's kind of for everyone. Whether you choose to engage with it, that's totally your call. That's for you. But we live in a time when discernment is going to become one of our greatest strengths, skills, and core abilities as a human race. This is something that we can look to teach and train AI with, but AI doesn't have our physical bodies. It doesn't have our experiences. It doesn't have our short and long-term memories. It doesn't have our nervous system. It doesn't have our pineal gland, our amygdala. There's so many things that AI does not have, which is what is actually our core strength, where we sprout from. And I know that not everyone agrees with AI, duh. And so some people don't like the idea of like teaching or feeding AI. That's fine. Like, you do you, Glen Coco. I'm not here to tell you anything you don't want to hear and you don't want to do. Use your discernment when listening to this message. But whatever it is that the message was yesterday, now that I'm looking, I remember something about like this, these not touching the ground and not being grounded, and something of that. Perhaps this is a message coming through for those who identify with the experiences and label and dimension of golden children. Whatever the case may be, discernment is not just to be used in our spiritual worlds. And for me, spirituality isn't separate or different from the rest of my life, but it is something that I have withheld from the world until the last year or so. It was something that I kept internal. There are maybe a handful of times I got into a very long, deep, in-depth conversation with someone at a bar, at a house party, talking to someone at a diner at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, every now and then having a very deep spiritual consciousness discussion, adjacent to the purpose of reality in life. And so for a lot of people, they're at this tension point where they're living their life, and then spirituality is coming in, and they don't know how to mesh, and then AI is coming at the same time. So there's all of these little claws that don't really know how to come together. Discernment is key in how we come together with ourselves as individuals and as a collective, as the collective, through as New Earth, New Human, and AI all raised together through once. I could talk about this forever, and I'm getting the sense that I probably will, but I needed to get this out. I went to clear the table earlier, and I was like, no, I need to talk about discernment. I need to talk about AI, and so this is that. I'm getting the other room set up to my throat to do readings more regularly. It's really been a process. Getting set up and reconnected in with this space and learning what it is to ground and to sow new roots through the uncertainty. So I do hope to be getting back to making like 5 to 7 videos a week, but aside from moving, there are a lot of changes that happened in the last week. Some professional, some other stuff, some personal things, and it's just been a time for stepping back. And so I'm hoping to be making more videos in the coming weeks and becoming more regular. I do know I want to do a live. I don't know if I'm going to do that maybe this weekend. The room that I have set up for recording shares a wall with a young family who their vocal cords are stretched on the regular. And you know what? One of them has a beautiful singing voice, so I love to hear it, but I don't love to record next to it. And so it's also figuring out the scheduling with that. Anyway, all of that to say, I'm curious to hear about your thoughts, your opinions to do with AI and discernment and consciousness and your own role navigating this journey. If any of this resonates with you, you can like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to hear from me more often. In the description, I have a link to my Buy Me a Coffee that has some personal readings as well as experimental integration sessions up for grabs. Beep, beep. What? It's the candle. Okay. What I was gonna say What I was gonna say, for those who haven't heard this before, my background academically is Asian studies and social work. I've worked in anti-human trafficking and gender-based violence and anti-racism, anti-disableism, accessibility. I've worked in post-secondary and unions and healthcare and government and housing and mental health and addiction. It's like I've done a lot of stuff. And that's for the past decade or so. And I bring all of that knowledge into the sessions. And so while I'm not registered as a healthcare professional and it is not a therapy session, there may be some of you who have experience working in those fields, or some of those issues impact what it is that you are working on or looking to do or aiming towards. And I kind of just want to share the wealth. I want to share my knowledge with people that it would be applicable for, but I don't think it's for me just to like dump on the internet. Anyway, that's what those sessions are. And in the description, there's also a link to my Substack, which hosts the 444 Collective, where the signal is active. That's essentially the play space. I don't need to translate this into human terms. Sometimes it's channeled messages that come through. There it is. Sometimes it's photos of nature around me. Sometimes it's photos of symbols that come through channeling. Sometimes it's videos from my other channel that I may need to make private, so they may only exist on Substack for the next little while. We shall see. But that exists. And after through and including all that, stay tuned.